Hey Scoundrels, what's going on? I hope you're all having a lovely day and I hope you're all feeling well too. Today we're going to be talking about the new patch that just got released today for Wild Rift, and what a patch it is. It is all nerfs. Everything is a nerf, but they are needed nerfs. If you enjoy the content that I'm putting out, the esports content, the guide content, and a bit of the gameplay content, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell. It would mean a lot to me, but again, no pressure. I'm just here to provide informational content, and if you want to subscribe, that's great. If you don't, then obviously I appreciate you regardless. I appreciate your view. Secondly, thanks to G2A for sponsoring the channel. Reference link in the description below. So, lots of much needed changes were promised, and we were waiting for them to come. I think Eve Mid was, very dominant for a very long time, but bam! We have got some insane changes today, which I really think is going to level out the meta. Let's talk a little bit about the 2.0a patch notes. Okay, first of all, Aurelion Sol, which is really interesting because you may have recently noticed in both esports side of things and also in solo queue, Aurelion Sol randomly became super popular once people kind of figured out how to play with him, and he also started to get a really high win rate. In high elo, I was seeing loads of Aurelion Sol players, and I think it's because Evelynn forced a meta that was very roam heavy, but then people realised that Evelynn wasn't the only champion that could do this, and Aurelion Sol was actually very good at this roam heavy meta too, and so he started to be played more as well. Even if Evelynn wasn't in the game, we started to see Aurelion Sol being played. And so they basically thought that Aurelion Sol was a little bit too mobile, he could move across the map too quickly, and was able to roam too much. There was a bug fix that when you used your first ability, the Star Surge, which is the stunning, the big circle that stuns, he would randomly gain 20% move speed. That's been fixed. And his third ability, Comet of Legend, which is basically his ability that allows him to move quickly across the map, the movement speed has been cut in half. So he's going to be half as quick going across the map now from his Comet of Legend ability, which means his roams are going to be slower. But no changes in damage, no changes in stun duration, etc. It's just a bit of his mobility has been cut down. So Aurelion Sol's roaming potential has been lowered. I still envision that Aurelion Sol is going to be a great pick. I still think people are going to play him. It's just that he's not going to be able to roam as much as he was able to before. Evelynn, I read these changes and I was over the moon. Hate Spike, which is her first ability, her spammable ability, has had its AP ratio nerfed, not by much, and the mana cost of it has gone up by a small amount as well. I wouldn't say that those two things are going to be huge for Evelynn. I think you'll still feel a bit of the damage nerf, but it won't be, overbearing. Damage to minions is now 30% at rank 1. She is going to clear the minion wave 3 times slower at level 1, which should keep her in line with other people in the mid lane. You can still play Evelynn mid, you just can't spam level 1 hate spikes, push the wave and go and invade the jungle anymore. Still think Evelynn can be played mid, don't get me wrong. She still has the range on her hate spikes, she can still clear waves as you level that ability up, but there's no longer level 1 shenanigans and most other mid laners should be able to compete with Evelynn's wave clear in the mid. Great change, absolutely. Doesn't kill Evelynn in the jungle, but it also doesn't, means that she's no longer oppressive in the mid lane. Gragas, he is getting a nerf. Health per level being reduced by 10, so he's going to get 150 less health throughout the game, which is actually pretty significant, or the 140 health less throughout the game, which is pretty significant. His passive is having an extra second on its cooldown, so his regeneration is being nerfed in lane, and Barrel Roll, which is his first ability, the mana is being increased and the minion damage is being reduced, so Barrel Roll is going to take more mana in lane. I still think Gragas will be viable, don't think it's going to change much of Gragas' viability. He's just going to feel a little less easy to get away with in terms of regeneration in lane, and he's also going to sort of feel a little less tanky. Maybe Rod of Ages is going to be the go-to build now because of the fact that he's going to need that extra little bit of HP to make up for it. Or Liandry's, I've been seeing a lot of Liandry's first in terms of Gragas. But Gragas is still going to be viable. He needed the nerfs, and his sustain was ridiculous. We'll have to see how that plays out. I'm wondering whether he will just be more of a Baron laner now rather than a mid laner, whether the trades are going to be a bit more intense, but we'll have to see. Lee Sin, the Blind Monk, do you know what? This is exactly the change that I wanted. This Lee Sin change basically reduces his range of his Sonic Wave by a small amount, just under 10%. His base damage is also going down on it by 5 in the early game, up to 10, up to 15, up to 20. So they're reducing the scaling damage that the Sonic Wave provides. And essentially, that range was too long. So Lee Sin players are now going to feel like about a 10% range drop off from his Sonic Wave. Whether that's enough range, we'll have to see, but it definitely is the right direction for Lee Sin nerfs, because that was one of the main things that made Lee Sin incredibly strong, just that ability to engage from a very long distance. His Sonic Wave range was absolutely ludicrous. So yes, the right changes for Lee Sin. And what I'm loving about these patch notes so far is everything that's like all the problem children of the meta, the Evelynns, the Gragases, the Lee Sins, they're all getting hit. Riot is listening to the player base. They're making changes that the player base is asking for and calling for. Misfortune. Double up base damage has been nerfed, and the attack speed from Strut has also been nerfed. Any of you that have played against Misfortune recently will know that she's been spiking in the meta a little bit, and she has ridiculous damage on her double up ability. This is going to bring it down ever so slightly. I don't know whether enough to make Misfortune lower priority than she is. I think Misfortune just is incredibly strong right now in the current meta. But, you know, this might start bringing down that lane bully potential of her a little bit more. Shyvana is getting some nerfs. I mean, Shyvana was a strong jungler. I don't know whether she was strong enough to warrant massive nerfs, but she was definitely a strong jungler. Her base armor has been reduced by 5. The slow on her twin bite, when you have the mountain dragon buff, has been reduced by 20%. Her base burnout damage has been reduced by a massive amount once you level it up to its max level, but won't change at level 1. And her Dragon's Descent bonus HP from the Ocean buff has been reduced as well. So they're basically reducing the win more Shyvana, which is essentially that, you know, when Shyvana's already winning and taking dragons, she gets these big buffs, where they're going to reduce the win more aspect of the Shyvana. Don't know whether Burnout needed the base damage nerf. I mean, it was one of the... I used to max Burnout first because I just like the quick clear speed, but now it might be worth to max another ability first, because maybe it's, you know, the damage that you get from Burnout just isn't worth it. We'll have to see. But yeah, Shyvana probably was the second strongest jungler in the meta right now, so maybe we're going to kind of level out that jungle. Level out that jungle path and jungle sort of playing field. Wukong's jungle is very strong. We're nerfing his clear speed and his element of surprise. So now he only goes invisible for 1 second in his warrior trickster, which I actually think's a pretty big nerf. His clone damage now does 50% at all levels though, so he'll be able to do 50% damage at all levels of warrior trickster. It means it's better to, you know, they're basically balancing it, saying, okay, well, you put 1 point in warrior trickster, you get less invisibility, but your clone will do more damage from the very outset. Nimbus Strike. Attack speed has been reduced, so that will hurt his clear speed. However, they're giving him more scaling by, if you put all your points in it at the max level, you'll have 55% attack speed. So you're going to get more attack speed in the late game. They are just nerfing his early clear speed, and they're also nerfing his ability to use the Warrior Trickster for longer. So it's about a third duration nerf on the Warrior Trickster. Small-ish nerfs to Wukong. Oh no, wait, sorry. I got the Warrior Trickster thing wrong. It's now actually less damage, so you actually have to put the points in it to get the damage in from the Warrior Trickster. That's all. That early damage nerf is going to hurt his clear speed, especially. So he's going to have a much slower jungle, but also as a side effect, he's going to go lower in the jungle. So he'll have to be a little bit more careful about the way that you approach your jungle pathing and jungle clear speed. Sorry, I read that ability wrong to begin with. Items, Guardian Angel. Yes, Guardian Angel was ridiculously strong. Total cost is being upped by 300 gold. The attack damage is coming down and the revive cooldown is going up. Do I think this is enough to make GA non-meta? Probably not. I actually think that 300 gold is very little in Wild Rift, even though it might delay the spike of GA a little bit more, and obviously bringing the attack damage down by 5 is a bit of a nerf. But my worry is that the meta in Wild Rift is about teamfights early on, and there is no better item for negotiating teamfights early on than GA. So I don't know whether GA is going to drop out of the meta or not, because I just think it might be too useful of an item for the way that the Wild Rift meta plays out. Because, you know, GA is that first item spike. Everybody fights around dragons usually for the first dragon, and GA is an item that can make or break a fight. So whether do I think it's going to change GA's position in the meta? I'm not sure. I don't know if it will. I'd love to kind of review this in a couple of weeks and see if it has changed the high elo build paths. Because it's only 300 gold and 5 AD nerf, so it's not like they've... I mean, obviously the revive cooldown is a bit of a hit, but realistically, you used it for that first dragon fight most of the time, and I don't know. I still think it might just be too important for the way that the Wild Rift meta plays out, but we'll have to see. Let's come back and check it in a few weeks. But overall, I think what they've done here is fantastic. Really, really good changes. They've nerfed a lot of the problem childs. This might level out the meta. I've had some reports from my friends playing today that this has really kind of made the meta more enjoyable to play. Tell me what you guys think in the description below, rather the comments below. Do you think these are good changes? Would you like to have seen more? Do you think they were bad changes? The only one that I, wasn't expecting was Aurelion Sol. But obviously he has had a recent spike in win rate, so, it could be the case that that's absolutely warranted. But everything else seems like really sensible changes. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you think there is anybody else that should be adjusted? Maybe Kennen's ultimate damage was a little bit too much, but he's only recently been released, so I'm guessing they're wanting to collect more data on that. But yeah, really, really good changes, I think, overall here for Wild Rift. See you soon, guys.